A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. When Jesus had crossed again in the boat to the other side, a large crowd gathered around him, and he stayed close to the sea. One of the synagogue officials named Jairus came forward. Seeing him, he fell at his feet and pleaded earnestly with him, "My daughter is at the point of death. Please come lay your hands on her that she may get well and live." He went off with him, and a large crowd followed and pressed upon him. Now there was a woman afflicted with hemorrhages for 12 years. She suffered greatly at the hands of many doctors and had spent all that she had. Yet she was not helped, but only grew worse. She had heard about Jesus and came up behind him in the crowd and touched his cloak. She said, "If I but touch his clothes, I will be cured." Immediately the flow of blood dried up. She felt in her body that she was healed of her affliction. Jesus, aware at once that power had gone out of him, turned around in the cloud and asked, "Who has touched my clothes?" But the disciples said to him, "You see how the crowd is pressing upon you, and yet you ask, 'Who touched me?'" And he looked around to see who had done it. The woman, realizing what had happened to her, approached in fear and trembling. She fell down before Jesus and told him the whole truth. He said to her, "Daughter, your faith has saved you. Go in peace and be cured of your affliction." While he was still speaking, people from the synagogue official's house arrived and said, "Your daughter has died. Why trouble the teacher any longer?" Disregarding the message, Jesus said to him, "Do not be afraid, just have faith." He did not allow anyone to accompany him inside, except Peter, James, and John, the brother of James. When they arrived at the house, he caught sight of a great commotion, people weeping and wailing loudly. He went in and said to them, "Why this commotion and weeping? The child is not dead, she is asleep." They ridiculed him, and he put them all out. He took along the child's father and mother and those who were with him and entered the room where the child was. He took the child by the hand and said to her, "Talitha koum," which means, "Little girl, I say to you, arise." The girl, a child of 12, arose immediately and walked around. At this they were utterly astounded. He gave strict orders that no one should know about this and said that she should be given something to eat. The Gospel of the Lord. In mid-May, a group of about 70 of us spent 10 days in Italy, the highlight of which I think were 3 events that took place in Rome. First, I had the privilege to celebrate Mass for the group in St. Peter's Basilica. Secondly, we were able to secure tickets to the Scavi. The Scavi is the cemetery that lies way beneath St. Peter's Basilica, where St. Peter is buried. The present basilica was built in the 1500s, and about 20 feet underneath that is the floor of the original Constantine Basilica, which was built in the 300s. And under the floor of the Constantine Basilica is the necropolis, the cemetery. All the burials in those days were above ground, and at the very center, directly under the high altar at St. Peter's, is what is called the Orange Tomb, because the clay was orange, and that has always been believed to be the tomb of Peter. In 2010, Pope Benedict gave permission for the casket to be opened and DNA testing to be done on the bones, which revealed that they belonged to a rather robust man who died at about the age of 67 or 68 in about the year 67 or 68, which would be totally consistent with Peter. It's very difficult to secure tickets for that because they only allow 200 people a day to go through, and you have to wait till every 9th day when the tours are given in English. And the third event was when we went to the papal audience in St. Peter's Square. The audience is held on Wednesday mornings at 10 o'clock. The hotel where we stayed was about a 10-minute walk from the square, and I said to the group, I think we should walk over about 9:15. We had 2 wonderful Italian women as guides, and they both put their hands up and said, "Stop, Father, you have to go over at 7 o'clock. I said, 7 o'clock? They said, "You have no idea the crowds this man is gathering." Well, we went over at 7:30, and fortunately we got front row seats right along the barricade, so that when he came along, he was 3 or 4 feet away from us, and then he stopped right in front of our group while they handed 2 babies up for him to kiss. I checked the next day with the L'Osservatore Romano, which is the Vatican newspaper, because you have to have a ticket to get in, and the L'Osservatore Romano said there were 151,000 people in the square that morning. The previous pope drew crowds of 18 to 20,000. And if you looked around at the crowd, half of them were kids and young people. And I have never in my life experienced such a feeling of electricity as when that man came out into the square. The whole place just went wild. I've been there many times with 4 different popes, and I've never experienced such electricity. Can you imagine what the electricity must have been like to be in the presence of Jesus Christ? Look at these 2 people today. The woman has such great faith that she says, "If I just touch his cloak, I will be cured." And Jesus said to her, "Your faith has saved you." Jairus, the synagogue official, when word comes that his daughter has died, Jesus said to him, "Be not afraid." Remember last week the story of the disciples in the boat? When the squall came up, they woke Jesus frightened, and he said to them, "Why are you so frightened? Have you no faith?" How much time do all of us spend worrying about things that are completely beyond our control, when instead, if we simply had faith, there would be nothing to be afraid of? Amen.